Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 1146 of Screw the Commute podcast. Today we're going to talk about webcams. I'm not going to tell you which ones to buy, but I'm going to give you a whole bunch of things to think about. Kind of a checklist of getting one that serves you well, makes you look as good as possible, and all the kind of things you may not have thought of that webcams will do. All right, hope you didn't miss episode 1145. That was a gadget called a stylus that, oh my God, if you got fat fingers or you got long fingernails, it can precisely do stuff on your cell phones and tablets for you. Just really handy little gadget, cheap or free, from $3 to $15, you got everything you need. All right, let's see. Pick up a copy of my automation ebook at screwthecommute.com/automate free. Version 3.0 is the latest, but I'm about 90% done with 4.0. Working on the graphics now, and then I'll have Larry and Mark proofread it, and we'll be ready to roll with that. Don't feel bad if you don't feel like you got to wait, because you can download 3.0 right now, and then this 4.0 is going to add to it. So don't hold back if you haven't gotten 3.0. Just go to screwthecommute.com/automate free and check out my mentor program, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, and my school at imtcva.org, certified to operate by Chev. All right, let's talk about webcams. And don't get sucked. The first thing I got to tell you is don't get sucked into the hype. Oh, we do 8K and all this stuff. I'm going to go through a bunch of stuff so you don't have to spend a lot of money to have a good quality webcam. And don't think that the webcam by itself is going to make you look like a TV anchor. No. Actually, the lighting, you can have the cheapo webcam and good lighting, and you'll look better than an expensive webcam with terrible lighting. So, I probably have episodes on lighting, but basically you want to light. The ring lights aren't so great, especially if you have glasses. Two cheap lights, one to your left and one to your right, are probably all you need. If you want to really get fancy, you get a backlight, but I talk about that in other episodes. All right, but anyway, let's see. And actually, your phone is better than any of the webcams you're going to get. However, it's just not convenient to put your phone up and take it out of service, and you can't look at texts coming in. And I mean, it's just you're better off with a decent webcam that's set up, and you don't have to fool with it all the time. Let's see. So the first question you got to ask yourself is, what am I using this webcam for? Do I do Zoom meetings or podcast interviews or podcasts and live streaming or customer service? What do you use the thing for? And you're going to get, when you look at webcams, you just go to Amazon, you can see all kinds of webcams. They're going to have resolution. This is one of the things on your checklist. And some of them will say, 2K or 4K. Well, for most of the things I just rattled off of your uses, YouTube especially, they compress your fancy schmancy video, high resolution, down to 1080p anyway. So you don't really need anything more than 1080p most of the time, unless you're just super doing high quality stuff and using the heck out of it and trying to do professional promotions and all, really into it. Because in most cases you're overkilling it, and it's just, you spend a lot of money for nothing. Another thing you're going to see is frame rates. So you're going to see 60 FPS, that's frames per second, or 30 FPS. And you say, 60 is sounds better. Well, yeah, I mean, it'll do more things that you probably are not doing. So if you were doing really fast motion, I mean, it's great if you're out shooting 60 frames per second or more for your kid's soccer game. All right. But if you're sitting there just talking, all you're doing is making a higher file size and harder on your internet connection for no reason. So for most of your work, 30 frames per second is just fine. I can't remember shooting anything in the thousands of hours of videos I've done more than 30 frames per second. Okay, another feature is autofocus. Well, again, what are you using this for? Do you hold up things to the camera frequently? Do you do whiteboard? Do you do demonstrations? Well, and if you're doing any of those things, autofocus can be a decent feature for you. But for most of the time, just sitting here, fixed focus is just fine. It just focuses on me and I'm sitting here talking into my webcam. All right. So unless you're doing a lot of that other stuff, don't consider that and pay a lot of extra money for autofocus. All right. Next little checklist item is field of view. A lot of them are 65 degrees, 78 degrees, or 90 degrees. So a lot of them will brag, oh, we shoot wide angle. Well, I could tell you, in my office, wide angle just makes it look worse because you see all the crap on the sides of my messy office, all right? So you want to be able to shoot tighter if you want. So having variable field of view can be helpful, but bragging about wide angle in most of our situations where your computer is set up, your little office is set up, and you don't want people seeing all the way the sides, then it's not that important for you. All right. Next thing is, especially if you don't do what I say and get some decent lights, is low light performance. Does the camera look all grainy and noisy if you don't have, perfect lighting? And what you're going to do is see a lot of people review these on YouTube and do side-by-side comparisons. And that's where you really want to go to pick the one that's right for you. But now you're going to understand a lot of these things they're talking about with frames per second and resolution and field of view, FOV, that's shortened, and low light performance. Okay, then another thing to consider, how does it mount? Now, the ones inside your computer, you're kind of stuck with wherever they are and whatever they are. But a lot of external webcams have different mounts. They might have tripod mounts or monitor mounts, things like that. So you want to see, okay, for my use, am I going to set up a tripod behind my screen? Or do I need it to have it hanging right on my screen? What's best for you? And then a lot of them have software where they can, some of them can do like different backgrounds for you. I'm not in favor of that stuff because most of that stuff looks really terrible. All this green screen stuff people are trying to do. I mean, I had Hollywood training and lighting and green screen and I've been in the Actors Guild and all this stuff. And most people just mess it up, look terrible on green screen and fake backgrounds. You're better off setting up a background, bookcase or flowers or plants or something, and that way you wipe out that looking stupid by having weird green screen or fake backgrounds. Now, you also have a feature some of them have called face tracking. Well, again, you pay extra for something that if you're just sitting as a talking head, you really don't need. In fact, sometimes it's better if you go to like, for instance, I'm going to say, pretend I'm on a podcast interview and say, oh, let me grab this thing here I wanted to talk about here. So I look away and I don't need the camera to follow me over there. The coming in and out of the frame a little bit is more interesting and safer and less expensive than buying face tracking. See? So don't spend extra for that unless you absolutely need it. Then privacy shutters. Well, some of them have a mechanical thing that goes over the lens so nobody can hack you and be watching you when you when you don't even know the camera's on, because sometimes the hackers can make the camera turn on and there's no light that tells you it's on. And so you could pay extra for that. And some of them have them built in, but for years, I would just have a piece of manila folder paper, a little thick, like cardstock, on a piece of tape and just flop it over the camera when it wasn't in use. So don't pay extra for that. And also consider the cable length. A lot of them will tell you what the cable is. I bought this secondary webcam because I'm setting up a thing where I'm going to have a really oddball shot way up near the ceiling behind me, looking overhead, for some of my productions. And actually the cord still wasn't long enough. I had to get an extension USB cable for that. So, but for your normal use, usually the cables are long enough as long as you have a place to plug it in. And is it USB-C? Is it USB-A? All these are important on what things you have in your computer to plug it in. And sometimes you have to get it. If you have too many things plugged into your computer, your USB ports, you got to get another little hub to plug more stuff in. I mean, I got 8-10 things, I think, plugged into my USB ports here. So that's just a little primer. Like I said, your audio. I forgot about this one. A lot of them have built-in mics. Guess what? Do not use a built-in mic on a webcam. God help you if you do. It's going to sound terrible. All right. Now, I have heard, people on their MacBook Pros or whatever the Mac laptop's called, sounds pretty good as long as you're super close. But really, you want to get an external microphone if you really want it to sound good, because audio is more important than video. And we're talking about webcams and the video aspect of it. But if they can't hear, if they can't see, or the visual is not great, a lot of people will hang in there with you. But if they can't hear you, they are gone. All right. So don't use the built-in microphones that a lot of these things have. And with back to the software a little bit too, you can make it zoom in and zoom out and blur the background on some of them and things like that. But like I said, don't pay extra for that stuff, because if you just set up something nice, a lot of that stuff is just more hassle than what it's worth. If you set it up nice once, your background and where you're going to be recording and so forth, you're going to be fine. And a lot of them you can just take with you if you're going to a hotel room or something. But again, it's easy to pack the webcam, but you got to have a good microphone still. All right. So there you go. All right. So check out my mentor program, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, and my school, imtcva.org, certified to operate by Chev. That's the State Council on Higher Education in Virginia, but you don't have to be in Virginia because it's quality distance learning. And I had to sweat blood, and the school's been around for, I think, 13 years now. And a lot of these places that are trying to sell you stuff, there's no scrutiny whatsoever. They take your money, charge you a fortune. Nobody, has checked their curriculum. They're not responsible to anybody. Where I am, I got the state, I have to recertify every year with this extensive thing every year. And I have to have a big bond, a $50,000 bond, just in case a student, is not happy. It's, when you see this stuff, they call themselves colleges and universities and all this. It's all bullshit. All right. So this is the real deal. All right. So check that out at imtcva.org and check out webcams and see. Like I said, they're not going to make you look like a TV anchor by themselves. You got to have lighting and sound and all that stuff. But there's some a checklist here to help you pick the right one for you. All right. We'll catch you on the next episode. See you later.